Blog Talk Radio.
Paranormal Review Radio.
Hello and welcome everyone. It's Friday night and you're listening to Paranormal Review Radio, the only radio show without commercials and with more great paranormal talk. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm Anthony Agati in New York.
And I'm Lucy Liebfried in Chicago. Are you ready for another Paranormal Friday night? Thank you all for joining us tonight. We welcome all of our regular listeners and those of you who have tuned in for the very first time. Now, if you have a question for our guests tonight, or about the topic tonight, feel free to ask us in the chat room or call into the show at 661-244-9831. Press the number 1 to speak to us. Now, don't forget you can always send us an email with future topics that you would like to see on the show, or maybe you have a story or a theory that you want to share with us on air. Our email address is paranormal.review@aol.com. We also have our own YouTube channel where you can watch all of our previous shows. Now, don't forget to check us out on our Facebook show page for more info on the paranormal and upcoming shows.
5 seasons, over 60 episodes to date, and 2 amazing investigators. Who am I talking about? None other than Amy Allen and Steve DeShavi of The Dead Files. When Travel Channel premiered the show back in 2011, the paranormal world never knew what hit them, nor did they even see it coming. We are extremely excited to bring back 2 of the most astonishing pioneers in the field. Amy Allen, not only a lifelong physical medium, but a grounded, intelligent, caring, and may I add, beautiful person. And Steve DeShavi, a retired NYPD homicide detective, a no-holds-barred straight shooter with a heart of gold. Our chat room is filled and our phone lines are actually lighting up right now. We could not be any more proud to welcome our guests who seem actually to have a huge fan base. So please help me in welcoming back to the show the incredible, the incomparable, the creme de la creme, Miss Amy Allen and Mr. Steve DeShavi. Hi, guys. Hi, Amy. Hi, Steve. How are you tonight?
Good.
I'm good. How are you guys?
Great.
Hi, Amy. Hi, Steve. Welcome back.
Hi, Lucy. How are you?
I'm fine. You know what, guys?
Hi.
Hi. You know what? If you remember the last time that you were on the show, Anthony wasn't able to make the interview because his sister was in the hospital giving birth, and I did the whole show by myself, and both of you were absolutely so gracious while I was completely nerve-wracked. So I really, really want to thank you guys for that. But you know what?
Thank you.
It actually conjured up a question, okay? Have either of you thought about what it would be like to do what you do without the other?
Not really. I don't think I would ever be involved with the paranormal at all unless I was working with somebody like Amy. To be perfectly honest, I don't think I could.
I've been working in the field since I was about 20, and I'm 41 now, so I've been around doing it for a very, very long time.
Well, you know what? This show continues to be a fan favorite. In fact, it still is my favorite show. But you know what? The cases, they seem to be getting a little bit darker in nature. Are you finding that people are coming in contact with more negative activity than before?
Well, that's a hard question to answer, really, because, you know, if you look at the cases that we take are typically cases where, the people don't really have anywhere, they're running out of options. And so we are getting cases that are, I think, the worst of the worst situations, so that we can get in there and figure it out and help as best as we can. So I can't say, I'd have to be active in the field without, cases being picked based on, the level of emergency that's going into the decision making behind it. So I couldn't give a clear answer, unbiased answer as to, is it becoming more prevalent? Evil, is showing up more and more frequently. I don't really know. I mean, you can look at the news, but they also propagate, the worst of the worst. So,
right.
Yeah.
I think also a lot more people are willing to come forward now, because I think our show brings a lot more credibility to the paranormal field,
right,
than a lot of other shows. Well, our investigation, I should say, not so much the show, but I think a lot more people that are having these issues, I don't think they would have told anybody about it, or been so open about it on being on TV, with some of the bizarre stuff they're saying, that's happening. But that being said, they're saying bizarre stuff, but yet Amy's confirming that's what these people are going through, so something's going on.
Well, you know what? Anthony and I, we are really big on research, and we exhaust all possible resources to find anything that may help us when we visit a location. Steve, the investigation that you do for a case is absolutely amazing. Now, some of these cases have events that they may have occurred hundreds of years ago, or the case might be a small town with limited resources. Just how difficult is it to do the research on them?
Well, I'll be honest with you, the research is really not the difficult part. There's a lot of talent out there. People can do their own research. It's not that hard. I mean, I have access to websites and stuff that the average citizen doesn't. So that, I have that going, but the research part is not that hard. I mean, most people can do it once they get the hang of the websites and all this other stuff. The hard part is getting people to talk to you, and then getting people open up to you, and get people willing to help you out on an investigation. And when I call people up and say, listen, I have to line up 4 or 5 different people, certain types of people for the same thing, just to make sure I have backups. A lot of people tell you to go to hell. I ain't got time for you. But I'm lucky enough where I have credibility that, I am a licensed private investigator. I'm a retired New York City homicide detective. So with that, it opens up a lot more doors for me. So for the average citizen, it's a lot tougher. So I don't have much more talent than, John Q. Citizen when it comes to research. I just dig into a lot more stuff that I think may help Amy. That's the part that I find difficult. Like before, I would have never known, I wouldn't have looked at stuff before that I look at now, 25, 30, 40, 50 episodes ago. So there's stuff now that I look at that I would have never looked at in the first season. So, but when you know what you're working with and when you know what to look for, it's like working a homicide case. Once you do 50 or 100 of them, you know the steps at the beginning never change. Everything's the same. You go through the same process. It's where you branch out after you get the concrete stuff down or the foundation stuff done. That's when it starts getting a little tricky. So I don't know if that answers your question. It's a little long-winded, but that's the best way I can answer that.
No, it absolutely did.
And Amy, you don't receive any information before you go to a location. Basically, you may be given either the town. Am I correct in saying that? Oh, no, not even that.
No. Yeah. My protocol is I pack 2 huge bags that usually weigh about 100 pounds, and I get a lot of slack from the airline when I'm checking in because they're overweight. But anyways, I have to pack for any kind of weather, really, because I don't know where I'm going. So I like to be prepared. I've been caught many a time without boots, or I'm bringing winter clothing and it's summer, so it's just, I just now pack for frickin' anything. I get to the airport, and many a time I'm met with, so where are you flying to? I don't know, you tell me. So I find out at the airport what state I'm going to. And sometimes I end up in that state, and sometimes I don't. There's been times where I've gotten off a plane in, I'm trying to think of the most recent, I think I got off the plane in, maybe was it, I don't even remember. Say I get off in Ohio and I end up in Iowa,
Mm-hmm.
I just get in the car with a driver and he drives me, however many hours to some hotel, and I get there and then I get driven to the location. So I never, usually I don't know where I am until maybe 24 to 48 hours after the walk takes place. And sometimes even then, I'm confused. I was very confused in North Carolina. I think I thought I was North Carolina, but I was in South Carolina for a week.
No,
so,
The opposite. We were in North Carolina. You thought you were in South Carolina.
Yeah, so...
It still screws you up.
I never know really where I'm at, so... But that's part of the protocol. That's my method, and I stick to it, so...
And it works. I mean, it works, and that's the basis for the show. I mean, I'm sure that if you did have information, would thought sort of construe with anything that could come through?
I truly, truly believe that it is one of the most detrimental things a sensitive can do to themselves is to have prior knowledge. I tend to take it to extremes, not knowing the state, et cetera. That's pretty extreme. But I think even knowing, okay, Uncle Bob died here, I think it's detrimental. You're going in, you're biased, you'll have obsessive thoughts that you need to be seeing Uncle Bob and he's not there. Why isn't Uncle Bob here? Meanwhile, there's 3 other dead people wanting to talk to you, but to you, you're like, well, they're not important because I need to find Bob. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think it's a very detrimental thing to any sensitive, whether it's a lock or a reading or a homicide case, missing persons case. The less you know, the better you will do.
I recently watched a video that the Travel Channel did on you, Amy, that was titled "The Day in the Life of Amy Allen." And I was so happy to see that you and your friends were around, I believe it was your grandparents' grave, and having food and enjoying your time together with everyone. Do you feel that in general society has become distant towards death and maybe even forgetful of family that have passed on?
Well, I think, when you're looking, it depends on the culture, and in the U.S. we definitely have put a distance up between us and the death and dying process, unfortunately. It's something that's become very clinical and something that we tend to extend our arm as far out as we can away from the person who is going through that dying process. And, the after-death process also has become, basically, you don't really see your loved one. Maybe if you have an open casket, you'll see them. Whereas in other cultures, you're actually bathing the person, dressing them. It's a very hands-on, very intimate experience. But we have very, very, very much clinical, sterilized the entire process, which is unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. I don't know if it was in that same video or not, but there was another part that mentioned that you love to go to this one spot called Milk Bar, I think it was, where you were able to sort of get away and dance and be free and also be free from the spirits contacting you. Are there certain places that you go to in your everyday life that seem to be a magnet for spirits and maybe others that you find that you can sort of get away and be free and be yourself?
Yeah, you never know. Milk, is active. There are dead people there, but they're pretty nice, and they typically keep to themselves. That's more along the lines of what I look for in places where I kind of want a respite, is a place where they're cool dead people. They're going to respect you want your time, and but you never know. I really never know. You know, when I move or I'm staying at a hotel or whatever. I don't know. What's going to happen.
Steve, as a kid, I wanted to become a cop, as old boys do. But, with some of the trouble I got in as a teenager, that was just not going to happen. What was it like growing up as Steve DiSchiavi? Did you get into trouble a lot? Had you always thought that you wanted to wear the blue uniform someday?
No, actually, it was just the opposite. The last thing I wanted to do was be a cop. I hated cops growing up.
A little bad boy?
Well, I got thrown out of high school in the 10th grade. I ran with a rough crowd. Got my first tattoo at 13 years old.
Wow.
I don't want to get into the kind of stuff I did, but they say it takes the thief to catch a thief. So then what turned you around? What made you? The Marine Corps. I enlisted in the Marine Corps, and it kind of saved my life. I was on the path of, it's a cliche, but I probably would have been in jail or dead. To be honest with you. I was running with I was carrying a gun at the age of 14.
Wow.
I was doing stick-ups by the time I was 15 years old. So, there's a lot of stuff I've done I'm not proud of, but then again, I was a kid. I was running on the streets of Brooklyn, and the degenerates I was hanging out with, it was one of those things where my mother had me when she was 43. She was a little bit too busy with 4 other kids to deal with,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But things turned around for me. I was lucky enough. I had a high school football coach that basically dragged my ass down to the recruiting station one day, and I kind of brushed it off. And then I was shooting pool above the same recruiting station because there was a pool hole right on top of it called the Skytop Pool Hall. And I, shooting pool one day. They come up. The recruiter came upstairs. He's shooting pool with me. Next thing you know, I'm in parasilent. So, things happen for a reason. So it saved my life. And then while I was in the Marine Corps, my sister filed me for the police test, along with the sanitation and the fire department. And I took the test while I was home on leave before I went overseas, and I got called. So you know what it was? I got discharged, and it was a job. So I took it.
Right.
I wasn't trained for anything else. I was a machine gun. I was a grunt in the Marine Corps. I was, of course, trained as a radio operator, not radio operator. Nothing that would help me in the civilian world, unless we get attacked right here. But other than that, I had no intention of being a cop. It just, just happened.
Did you ever think of who you wanted to be when you were younger?
You want to laugh? I always wanted to be a marine biologist, to be honest with you. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but I love the water. I love everything to do with animals and fish and the aquarium and everything. Every time we go if I can get to an aquarium wherever we're visiting or wherever we're doing a show, I run to it. So, or a zoo. So,
That's
I never
awesome.
wanted to, it's an odd little thing. I always had aquariums, so. Right? Imagine me a marine biologist.
Actually,
where's that damn fish?
From your Facebook page, and just everything that you post, and just everything that comes through, I think you would have been excellent.
I appreciate that, but I think I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So, I think things happen for a reason, and I do like helping people, and it's gratifying. So I'm happy to do it.
That's wonderful. Well, you know what? We just did a show on fake psychics and mediums and the laughable demonology classes that grant online certificates. Now, it's really sad, when we see these people that prey on others and they allow them to think that they can be demonologists and confront the unknown. Do either of you have any thoughts on the people who prey on others by claiming they are mediums or demonologists and they really aren't?
Well, it's the same as any other scam artist. I know Amy. For me, Amy's probably going to answer this a lot more in depth than I would. But for me, it's just they're just another scam artist or a credit card fraud person. You know, somebody that's taking advantage of people's weaknesses and sorrow, if you ask me. And that's, I got more respect for a guy that'll walk up to you with a gun, stick it in your face and say, give me your money, than I do for people that are cowardice and do that crap and take people's money and give them false hope. You know, so. But it's bad for the field that Amy's in, because people lose credibility because of idiots like that. So.
Yeah.
Well, Amy, what do you think?
Well, it definitely makes me very upset and sad and frustrated. You know, just that, like Steve said, you know, they're criminals, and they are taking advantage of whatever situation they can to profit, and it's really sucks. I think, you know, one of the things that I did was, you know, I had my own encounters with frauds, and so I actually started an organization way back in the day where I was testing and working with people who claimed to have abilities, and I was doing that to try to bring some kind of, you know, legitimacy to, you know, these, you know, people, like if they're willing, because I went through a lot of testing. So to me, if you're, you know, a real sensitive, you're not going to have a problem being tested. You know, if the person is doing it, they're doing it for a good purpose, and they truly want to see, you know, what is going on with this, what does it mean, where does it come from physiologically, psychologically, sociologically, you know, if they're truly doing good research and good work, there's no reason not to be tested by these people. You know, I've had very good encounters with the individuals that tested me. So, you know, that's my thing. I just feel like, unfortunately, there is no standardized test or certification at this point in the field, which really nags at me a lot. And it is research I've been doing for my, you know, on my own for many, many years, working with various methods and theories on how to approach that very situation. So yeah, I have a lot of thoughts and opinions about it.
Yeah, I
agree with Angie's List.
Yeah, exactly. There should be some sort of regulation, like an Angie's List, like you said, Steve. There should be something out there.
Well, Amy, I know you don't have time to do that now, but I mean, that is absolutely brilliant. I mean, would you, if you had the time, would you still, you know, push for something like that, or maybe try to bring something like that about?
Well, you know, I did about a decade's worth of research utilizing various methodologies, and I did testing on about 200 individuals, and I collected quite a lot of data and utilized stats and all of that. So there are ways for this to be done. And it also, not only does it help to say, well, this person has some type of, you know, via statistics, has some type of unusual ability, but it also goes even further from the research that I've done into what type of perceptual experience, i.e. what type of ability the person has and how it would best be utilized in the field. So that's something I've kind of been sitting on now for about the last, you know, 6-7 years, is that 10 years worth of research. So I very, very, very much want to get back to that at some point and hopefully implement something where, you know, there will be some type of, you know, certification or regulatory agency set up to help clarify matters in that regard.
That's wonderful. Well, you know what, along those lines, one other issue that we're seeing is children, teens, who are being targeted by people or groups who claim they can train them to deal with the paranormal, even to the point of allowing them to investigate. You know, there have been some children affected. There have been some children affected by the cases you've had, and both of you are so wonderful when you deal with them. how can we teach young people about the paranormal without placing them in harm? And what age is it acceptable for young people to get involved?
I used to, when I was doing my research and stuff, I actually used to work with a child psychologist. He was a clinical psychologist by education and focused on child psychology. And he was actually somebody that I referred to quite often when there were children involved. He was also a sensitive. So he formed this practice where he could help children going through this process. So I believe that somebody with that type of credential is the person that needs to be working with children who are sensitive. What we found is that really during childhood and even into the teen years, it's best that, you know, they be allowed to have their experiences, that they're in a comfortable, safe environment where they feel they can communicate with, you know, their parents and siblings openly and without judgment. You know, a safe space, that they keep journals, that, yes, they do learn how to meditate, and they do learn protective measures. But as far as them running out and doing investigations or readings, you know, I would suggest that they have their own life experiences as children, and then when they reach more of an adult, you know, late teen, early adulthood, that's maybe more the time to visit, you know, what they may or may not want to do with this ability.
Yeah, I agree. It saddens me because we've done research for the show that we did on this, and there's a website, I think it's called even Family Haunts, that they encourage children, and Lucy had even called them up just to, you know, do some sort of behind-the-scenes undercover, a lame excuse for an undercover research, but she called them up and said that she has an 8-year-old cousin that is really interested in this, and this 8-year-old wants to attend these classes and be certified, and they said, sure, bring her along. And you know, and it saddens me. And for the people that don't realize and don't understand, you know, the only thing that they know is what they see on television, and that's the paranormal that they know of. And as glorious as they think, and as, you know, as amazing as it is, there's a lot of work behind it, and it's not all good work. There's a lot of things that go wrong. And, you know, we wanted to get that message out, and we wanted people to understand that a little bit more. And so that's one of the things that Lucy and I are trying to target this year, is just waking everybody up to the fact that, you know, children are children. Let them be children first.
Yes. They have a lot. I mean, really now, you know, the research is in, you know, now, of course, we never know, you know, really science is always evolving. Let me get that out there. And, you know, so brain research is actually one of the most confounding, you know, if you go into neuroscience, you know, and our brains are really not even developed until, you know, now they're finding the late teen, early, you know, 20s. You know, our brains are still evolving, still developing, you know, still imprinting. And really you want the person to have as normal, I mean, granted, if they have abilities, you know, they're going to have experiences. That's why I'm saying, yes, they need to communicate. They need to have a safe space. They need to have someone who is a child psychologist who is open to this, that can work with them and guide them very, very gently. But it's not, you know, hopefully the focus isn't going to be on turning them into, you know, this mega medium or this mega psychic or exploiting them. You know, they need to have a balance and a grounding in their life, you know. And with the brain, neurologically, the damage that could be done is terrifying. You know, if they're really being manipulated and exposed, you know, to parents who are demanding that they open at 8 years of age is just not safe.
Right, because what happens during those teenage years, or, you know, late to early young adulthood, it forms the basis of your behaviors for you going forward as you grow into an adult. And it's sort of like the soft clay. That's they're soft clay at that point. They haven't hardened yet, and I just think it's important to focus on that. Amy, one of the questions that we hear a lot when the topic of the show comes up is, what does Amy see when she's describing the spirits or the ailments that they may have felt, and as you're walking through that location? And I'm sure you probably get this question a lot, but for our listeners, can you sort of explain what happens when a spirit is communicating with you, or maybe what senses are active when you're interacting with the spirits?
Well, it depends on the location, and it depends on the dead people.
Okay.
So it does vary case to case, really. I never know what's going to be, going on. If there's a vocal dead person who really wants to relay their message, it's great, because what I encounter is there's a person there. So I see them physically, I hear them physically, we're interacting. And basically what happens is an instantaneous relay of information. And I get, it is telepathic, because literally I get their entire story within a second. And so I'm seeing them physically, but I'm also seeing, I'm experiencing physically and mentally their entire life. And so then I'm also hearing them physically speak to me, and they're kind of, when they're speaking, they're telling me what they feel is the most important things to focus on, okay?
Okay.
And so if it's their death, then I will experience, their death, me, myself, physically, so I'll feel, the feeling of a heart attack. And sometimes it's not clear, is it a heart attack, or are they being stabbed in the heart? That can be confusing. And then I'm also, meanwhile, trying to work out, all the information that I got from them as far as, okay, where were they born? Let me try to reach back into their memory and pull that forward, because I think that's important, even though they're not saying it's important. What they're saying is important is, gee, Jack killed me, So there's this kind of simultaneous interaction going on where I'm pulling from all the information they gave to me and talking to them physically. Now, if nobody wants to talk, that's a problem, And then I'm working with my guides. I'll try to hunt down the dead person. Like if they're hiding, I'll try to coax them out, like, hey, really, it's okay. You can tell me your story. It's okay. And then I'll use, I do psychometry as well. So if I'm touching, objects or the floor, or if an incident happened, and I happen to touch that right spot, I'll get the information that way. So there's a lot that it so varies. It's crazy. And then I'll get, like, dead people from down the street who want to talk, and then there's fights that happen with the dead people that are at the location who don't want these people showing up, so they're pushing them aside. And meanwhile, I think, well, maybe they're important too. I never know. So it's very, yeah.
One of the members in our chat room, Lou Mastriano, he was asking if you get smells. Do all of your senses get affected when interacting?
No. No.
No.
No, they don't. I very rarely get smells. Occasionally I will. I try to just tune in. I try to focus, because if all of my senses, and it's happened, where when everything's activated, I'll become overwhelmed, and I won't be able to process anything. So I have to try to focus on the visual aspect, or, listening, or the physical. Okay, they're giving me their death now. I have to feel this. Now I have to figure that out with the information they told me. So I can't allow myself, although it does happen sometimes, to get completely hypersensitive to everything that's going on with my body. I have to disconnect from myself before I do a walk. Completely.
Sort of wiping the slate clean.
Ask you,
yeah,
Amy, when you're taking in all this information, when you're getting the senses, the feelings that the dead person is there ever a point where you actually kind of like lose your sense of yourself?
I do that before I do the walk. When I do my opening, I remove myself.
So you're basically becoming like this person.
Yeah.
Okay.
In a safe way. I don't let them in my body.
Right. You allow that channel of communication to come through, but physically you don't allow them to come through.
They can't physically occupy my body.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe
you know, when I was a kid, they did. I didn't know any better.
Oh.
Mm.
Well, maybe Steve can answer this question. One of the biggest reasons why I love the Dead Files is that there just seems to be, no bull crap going on. It's straight to the point. It's, really no drama per se, no provoking. There's no acting. It's just real people getting real answers and offering real help. I know you both don't like to publicly talk about other paranormal shows, but what exactly is it about the Dead Files that makes it stand out, in my opinion, above the rest?
Well, I think first of all, we don't use any of those machines or any of the other,
Yeah.
Whatever the hell they use. We don't do the whole try to scare the audience thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just basically it's an investigation with two different, aspects of it. It's that simple. People ask me what kind of show I'm on. I tell them it's a docudrama with a paranormal theme. Because basically it's telling a story, whether it's through Amy talking to the dead or what she sees, or me telling a story of the history. We don't play into, ooh, look at that, ooh. Oh, did you see that? No, I didn't see shit, didn't see anything. And it's just, for me it's like, you know what, grown men and women standing in a room and being scared of something you don't see and the audience doesn't see, I just don't get it. For me personally, I think our show is more, I don't like to use this word and badmouth any other shows, but our show is a lot more intelligent. It's more professional. It's done the right way. You have two professional people that bring their talent to the table, but don't try to brag about it. We just do what we do, and hopefully, the ultimate thing with us is it's for the client. It's not about us getting our thrill or our oh, look what I got to see, or oh gee, I just want to have an experience. No, it's about us helping a client. It has nothing to do with our own selfish needs. Like, I don't need to solve a case. I've solved cases in the past. I don't need to do that. I need to help clients. Amy needs to help clients. So I think that is what separates us from the other shows. We're not out for our own gratification. We're out to help somebody else. So that's about as simple as I could put it. Without insulting anybody.
No, it's perfectly said, and I agree 100%.
I'm shaking my head up and down, yes. Okay, but in this last season, now one of the cases, the Valeska House, it's probably the most infamous public haunted location in the country. And we've met the owner, and we've been there. It has such a sad history, and it seems to be a beacon for other entities to come and go as they please. Amy, I believe you had some concerns for the owner and for the place, possibly to even close its doors and not allow the public to enter anymore. What is it about Valeska that should not be open to the people and for the hundreds of ghost hunt activities that go on there?
I look at it like this. When I did my walk and I saw children who are not in any way, shape, or form at peace, and I saw what happened to them, and it was absolutely horrifying. And really what came to my mind and what did not air was a discussion where I was trying to relay my point about this location, where how would it be if we went to Columbine? How would it be if paranormal investigators did overnights at Columbine High School? Just because this happened however many years ago to those dead people, it is something that is occurring now. Okay? So it's simple respect. It's respect for what happened there, how horrific and awful that was, how it affected the children, and how by people going there and doing what they're doing is not helping that situation at all.
Well, I think it boils down to people being selfish and just about their own gratification. You know, they don't look at the big picture. I mean, people, oh, Steve, did you ever have an experience? I don't want or do I need to have an experience. You know, my job is to help people. So people go there to wanting to have an experience or, you know, but when, like Amy put, and I couldn't agree with her more, she mentioned Sandy Hook in the reveal. Imagine going there where those kids were murdered. Okay?
Right.
Let's do an overnight there, see if we can contact somebody. How do you think the families would feel about that? I mean, so for me, you know, this whole thing about, I want to have an experience. No. You know, have it at your own house. What do you got to, you know, want to have an experience, do it at your own friggin' house. Don't be going to places where people were murdered. You know, to me, that's, and I'm not even in the field. I'm just basically an investigator. But working homicides all those years, I can tell you right now, dealing with those families of victims, okay, I could tell you straight off, firsthand, that's probably the most gut-wrenching thing to have to do in your life is deal with victims' families. And, you know, and Amy hit the nail on the head with that. Even though it was over 100 years ago, imagine if that was Sandy Hook or if it was Columbine. You know?
Right.
It just... you can't tell people how to make a living either. You know, it's their property. They can do what they want. I mean, so it is what it is. I mean, this is America. Everybody has a right to make their living the way they do it. But as long as it's not illegal, and she's not doing anything illegal, it is what it is.
But I think everybody needs to gain a moral compass. You know, I'm sort of equating it to when people do that. Equating it to trying to communicate with these young spirits, these children, babies that they are in that home. It's almost equivalent to having a rape victim constantly be on the witness stand and reliving it over and over and again.
100%.
That's what you're basically doing to these spirits.
Yeah. They're people.
Right.
They're just dead, you know, but they're people.
Well, you know what, Amy, right now I just wanted to ask, because all the physical things that you go through, you know, during the season and everything that you experience, are you feeling okay now after this current season has ended?
I am very, very tired.
I can imagine.
Very, very tired. Yes. I am, you know, when you go case to case, it definitely takes a toll. So I'm very happy to be on a nice long vacation where I can, you know, get myself back together.
Well, Steve, I didn't ask you that question because the pictures that I see posted, you always look like you're having a good time.
I can have a good time in the morgue, so it doesn't mean you can't go by me. I make fun no matter where I go. I was just down in Florida because I'm relocating down there, and I'm looking for a place, and and I'm going to an area that I don't know anybody, or at least I didn't think I knew anybody, and I wind up running into guys I worked with 10 years ago. It was the strangest thing of all the bars I could have walked into. And I wound up reconnecting with some old buddies that actually live in the area I'm looking to relocate down to. So it's pretty amazing.
It's a small world.
Yeah, I have fun no matter what. Yeah, it is a small world. And I ran into some fans, which was good.
Well, that's always good. And you're always accommodating. I see pictures of you and your fans all the time on your Facebook page. You guys are both so accommodating to your fan base.
Yeah, I mean, we don't, you know, there's nothing without a fan base. Without our fans, you know, I'm just Steve and she's just Amy, you know. So, Without the fans,
I
there's no Dead
consider
Files.
a great deal of them my friends, so they keep me
Aww.
going, let me tell you. I mean, they really do. It's amazing.
Well, Amy, you're a sweetheart.
Steve, this may be an odd question, but looking back on some of your previous homicide cases when you were on the force, now
right.
that you've been on I think it's over 60 paranormal cases with Amy, have you ever caught yourself rethinking about some of those cases that you worked on while as a detective and thought maybe there could have been some paranormal phenomena that may have been the cause or somehow related to the cases?
No, not a one. No,
not a one.
I never equate paranormal to anything. And it's just I'm not going to change the way I feel because of working with Amy. I don't believe paranormal had anything to do with anything I worked on. People have messed up. Maybe the paranormal had something to do with influencing them. I don't know, but I don't blame everything. I don't blame toothaches on paranormal. I don't blame people murdering people on paranormal. I blame themselves. So I really don't play into the whole paranormal having anything to do with any of the things I worked on. Most people that are into the field will disagree, but you know, I've never had anybody dead try to kill me, and I've never had anybody who did a murder say that it was other than one guy said it was the devil that made him do it, but then that was just you know, he didn't say it was the devil. He said it was something else. I mean, you know, you take the case like the Son of Sam case, and you know, the guy's a whack job. You know, so you know, we can't go blaming everything on you know, Lucifer and all the other stuff. That's a good question. I never got asked that question, but no, I never ever even, looking back, I never even thought about it.
Okay.
I mean, I would have liked to have had Amy on some of my cases, yes, but you know, to blame it on the paranormal, I never had anything that I dealt with all street stuff. I never dealt with any bizarre, except for one or two cases where it was ritualistic, but other than that, I never really dealt with it. My stuff was all street, down and dirty, violent crime stuff. It was never anything, you know, nothing like you would see on a, you know, The Cabin or some, you know, movie like that. It was just basic street stuff.
Well, you know what? Each one of these cases, sometimes they get like very, very like intense. How long does it take after you're done with a case, kind of like to come down or to unwind?
Well, that's an Amy question. I'm always going, so. You'll always see me unwinding in a photo of me at the bar with a drink in my hand. That's how the detectives unwind. So I don't do yoga. I don't do I don't do any of that crap. I just drink. So you want to see me unwind? Take a look at my photos.
For me, it just depends on the case, and you know, depends on the situation that happened, you know, the dead person, how interactive they are, what they went through, you know, all of that. Just depends. It can be a couple days, it can be a week, you know. Yeah, it just depends.
Well, one of the shows I remember from this past season was from St. Clair Shores, Michigan, when, Steve, you uncovered some amazing secrets about the previous owner. Amy described the serpent-like creature that was in the house. Now, did both of you have any kind of hesitation when you confronted the owners at the reveal?
St. Clair Shores, no. We never really have a hesitation confronting anybody, neither one of us, because, you know, if we have reservations about confronting anybody, I think it wouldn't help the case. It just doesn't work. If we don't do our job, I mean, you got to call people out sometimes, and then that's on Amy's end most of the time with the reveal stuff. Amy usually calls people out. I'll call them out when I think I'll call BS on something. You know, if you'll see when I have that funny look in my face, because sometimes I don't buy into everything everybody's saying. So I make them think I buy into everything, but you know, people for the most part on our show are very they're legit. We vet very carefully, so. But we don't have any reservations on confronting our clients at all. They're the ones that called us in, and I tell them from the beginning, you may not like what you're going to hear, but you're going to hear it. You know, because we're not going to do our case half-assed. We're going to do it all the way. You may not like what you hear. You may not like what Amy has to say, but you know, it is. We had a case in North Carolina in this last season, and the homeowner didn't want to talk about a certain thing. I kept bringing it up because he was dancing around it, but it came up in the reveal. And I can't get too into it, but, you know, Amy called him on it, and he knew exactly what she was talking about. And, you know, it is what it is. You know, she didn't back down from it, and you know, and I think that's what makes the show what it is. I mean, we're not going to appease anybody to make a good show. We're going to do what we have to do, and that's it.
Right, and it's just like what I was saying before. You're there to be real. You're not there to put lipstick and a bow tie on anything.
No. And if our stuff doesn't match up, it doesn't match up. We never said that it's going to match up 100%.
Right.
And if it did, who would believe that?
No, that's bullshit. Yeah.
That, you know, that's all. That's, you know, to me, like every week. Oh, she's dead on every week. Or Steve's. It's amazing how this history and everything's so exact. That's crap. I mean, it can't always be exact. But when it is exact, it kind of blows my mind, and you'll see that look on my face every week, because every week she still blows my mind, and I'm like, how is this possible?
Or people. The new thing is the clients now keep tidbits for themselves.
Yeah.
That's the new thing. Yeah, that's been happening a lot.
They don't reveal everything?
Well, what they do is they try to test Amy. They'll try to test her, and, you know, that stuff pisses me off.
That's the new thing. Yeah, the trend. So, I mean, we're just going to tell you everything that we get and no hold bar, and, you know, Steve's there to do his job. I'm there to do my job, and my job is to tell these people, you know, this is why you're being haunted. This is why this stuff is going on. These dead people are having issues with this, that, the other thing. This is what they're going through. You better, you know, everybody here, the living and the dead, needs to figure this out. And you have to be honest, and you have to be upfront if it's going to get fixed.
Yeah, you know, and I'll break chops at the end and say, are you going to listen to Amy's advice? And I'll ask him like 10 times. Because if I don't like the first answer I get, you know what? I'm going to ask you again till I believe you. I mean, after what this girl just went through, and you're going to sit there and go, are you going to do what she says? Well, yeah, we're going to see. No. Are you going to do what she says? Or are you going to make her go through all this for nothing? You know, and you know what? And I don't get mad if they don't. I can understand why Amy would, but you know what? You're the one that's got to live there now, not me. You know, you're the one going through all kinds of crap. If you don't want to listen to her advice, that's on you. So
one of the cases.
Go ahead,
Steve. No, go ahead, Steve.
So if the fans that are out there that get mad at the clients, don't get mad at them. They're the ones that got to live with it. You know, if they don't want to take Amy's advice, that's on them. We did our job. So.
One of the cases from this past season, in season 5, and I think there's a good amount of people in our chat room right now talking about it, was I think it was the Merchant Cafe in Seattle. And they were wondering if, I believe the owner did not take your advice, and I believe this owner, I forgot her name, but she was getting ill from this, and there was something about a black entity or black woman or woman in black. Do you know if this case or if the activity had settled with this case?
From what I understand at this point, it has not.
Okay. And she still has not taken your advice or made any...
I really don't know. She, from what I understand, and this has just been through word of mouth, so I don't even, you know, give much credibility to any of it, is that, you know, she, you know, is still doing her thing. And, you know. But who knows? I don't know. I haven't been in touch with her. She hasn't been in touch with me. You know, I stay in touch with people who stay in touch with me.
Gotcha. Well, you know that
a lot of people ask us how our client's doing. Sometimes I mean, we've just finished our 73rd episode, and the clients that do keep in touch are the ones that usually have a good outcome. It's the ones that decide not to take Amy's advice or blow it all off or whatever. Those are the ones we really don't hear from again. I'm still very close to a lot of our clients. I talk to them all the time.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, I visit. Last time I was in Florida, down in the Tampa area, I went to go see First Season. I went by the Ybor City Hotel, the Dom Vicente Inn, and I stopped in to say hello to all the, all those guys. So when I get a chance to talk to old clients, I do all the time. But if we don't talk to them, it's hard to say how they're doing because, unless they contact Amy, we really, most of the time it's if I hear from them in Facebook, how you doing? Things are good. Like we just did an episode in Oregon, and she's got things going.
Oh yeah, she's good.
She's contacted me. She's got a lot. She's got she's got shamans coming out. She's got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah,
so
great stuff. Really good stuff. Yeah.
So when stuff like that, it's good to hear because then you're like, it wasn't all for nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
And just to go back a little bit, but we were talking about why your show is so different and above the rest. That's the reason why, because you guys keep in touch. You guys keep that communication going with your cases. And a lot of other folks and a lot of other shows just, when the credits roll, and that's it for them.
Yeah, to me that's Hollywood. That's what,
right.
And I'm not Hollywood. Amy's not Hollywood. We're not. I got accused again today on Facebook. A woman saw me in a movie and said, "Is it true? Are you an actor? And this is all baloney?" Like, did you do your homework? The same way I got the role in that movie was the same way I wind up doing the show with Amy. It was all from a documentary I was on. Right. And I played a homicide detective. It was no stretch. It's not like I was doing Othello. What the hell was I? What the hell was I playing? I was in a movie called Pride and Glory with Ed Norton and Colin Farrell, and I was asked to play a homicide detective, and I did. And it wasn't that hard. So because of that, I got accused of being an actor, and I'm sure a lot of people call BS out there still, but you know what? It is what it is. You're always going to have naysayers. They must be watching anyway, so I guess they got to be watching too.
The Travel Channel sent us some info on the premiere episode for season 6, which starts on July 12th, and from the information, it said that the episode that you guys traveled to Florida City, Florida, I guess that's the opening premiere show, for a case that involves remnants of Hurricane Andrew in 1992 and some homicide case from 1916. Amy, you seem to encounter, I think, even some zombie-like entities there. Now, I know you guys can't talk about how, until the show airs, but are we in for a real dark, eye-opening show and season?
The season, yes, absolutely. This was really an astonishing, the cases were really quite something. I had encounters that just really blew my mind, and great concern for many of our clients. I know, I can't really talk too much about it, but very intense, very, really, all I can say is it definitely blew my mind. Some of these cases were just unlike anything I was even prepared for. So I would say it's definitely an intense season.
Did you learn anything new that you've never sort of encountered before? I mean, you don't have to go into specifics, but anything new that sort of happened that was something very, very new to you?
There are two cases in particular. The last one that we just did was really very, very sad, very intense, very emotional. and also it was a mystery, and the dead person had done such an amazing job at trying to hide and protect his true identity.
Yeah.
And it literally was a mystery that unfolded as the reveal unfolded. It was really amazing.
Yeah, that last case we just did was the epitome of what our show's all about.
Yeah.
Is basically that the last reveal we did, and we don't know if it'll be the season finale or not, but you know, because that's not up to us which one goes where. But that last reveal kind of just concreted exactly what both of us do and how the whole process of our show works. Because, like Amy said, everything what she thought was going on and what I was bringing to the table kind of unfolded what was really happening. And had not the process worked the way it did, either Amy or I would have never realized what the hell was going on there, why it was going on.
Yeah.
We thought one thing, but it was actually something else. But it was a really good case.
And then there was another one in Texas where I encountered
Abilene.
an entity, Abilene, Texas, and I encountered an entity there that really scared me and made me very nervous for the family and their safety. And it's something I had not, it's abnormal even to encounter something like this. I can't really go into any more detail than that, but it was absolutely terrifying.
Will this season go down in history as the most involved and dark yet?
I don't know. To me, they're all sad and dark, and I just hope for the best on each of them, the best for the living and the dead. I can't really compare that way.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I thought, it's funny because when season 5 hit, I was like, I told her it was the most intense and most emotional season yet, and then you do another season, you're like, I don't know, maybe this one is the most intense and emotional season yet. It's hard to say if it's the most. I mean, for me, it's kind of all the same, just different clients. I think where the change comes is more for Amy. I mean, there's not much I'm going to come up in history that I haven't heard before. I mean, it may be, shocking to the average person, but for me it's like, well, I may think it's screwed up what happened, or like that's a shame and it's sad and this and that, but nothing I encounter is going to shock me or make me think, oh boy, I never saw this before. No, I've seen it all basically, but on Amy's end, she's more than once at the reveal table says, I've never encountered this year has been one of those years where I've never encountered this before, or this has been one of the worst walks I've ever done. So on her end is where the seasons get more and more intense. On my end, it's the emotional side with the client. As far as history goes, it is what it is. But the history coinciding with what's going on in the house is what makes everything pretty, makes it even more intense, because now like, oh crap, this is what's here, and the person was a real SOB in life, and he's continuing on, or she's continuing on. So it just makes it opens up your thought process a little bit, like, well, maybe there's a little bit more to this life and death stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, guys? We cannot thank you both enough for coming on the show tonight. I am so happy that Anthony was finally able to talk to you both.
No, you did fine last time. Don't worry about it. I apologize for not being so up. I just got off a plane literally 2 hours ago. So, my apologies. I'm a little tired.
That's okay.
No. You guys are wonderful. But you know what? Is there any upcoming projects or anything that we can look out for?
I don't know about projects, and I don't know if we're allowed to say that we're going to be starting filming again soon for another season.
Mm-hmm.
But I can say that there will be life after this season, I guess, without giving it all away.
Well, that's good to know.
Oh, that's a choice of pun on words, but it will be life. Looks like we may be continuing on our process in a few, short weeks, which is good. The premiere starts now. I know there's a new revisit episode on July 5th, and then the season premieres on July 12th. So I'll be twitting and Facebooking about all that stuff. So. What would I say?
Twitting.
Twitting, yeah, whatever.
You know what? I think I've asked you this before, but will there be any books in the future from either of you?
Well, that's an Amy thing, not me.
I'm working on one right now, and I hope to be done with it by the end of this break, so it can get out there by September. So kind of taking that and getting it done finally. Yay!
Good.
Yeah.
Is it going to be like an autobiography, or is it cases or anything?
No. The auto is time-consuming, daunting, and killing me. I really need to find a co-author for that one because I find it dull and dreary to write. But this one is actually, I compiled about 100 questions, the most frequently asked questions by
That's
people.
Cool. Yeah.
And so what I'm doing is answering them, really in detail, in depth and in detail. Because, on Twitter and Facebook, you're like, yes, no, kind of like this, 2 sentences, whatever, And then people say, well, now I have more questions. And so I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to write this and, give them as much information to their question as possible.
Well, I don't get asked those questions. I get
I'm looking
ones.
forward to this.
What kind of questions do you get, XD?
No, nothing like Amy's questions. I get the usual. How do I find out who lived in my house? I'm like, it's it's stuff that anybody could look up. But I mean, what Amy does is something that's very specific. So my end of it, I mean, if I could write a book on how to do interrogations and interviews, but it's one of those things that you really can't do in a. I mean, I've seen books on it, but it's all crap. I mean, you really got to teach it in person.
Right.
There's no other way to teach that skill unless you do it in person. So, and I was fortunate to have great teachers, so I was very lucky.
Well, we're lucky to have you guys on tonight and to be able to watch you guys every week. So we want to thank you so much for coming on and, taking time out of your busy schedules. And I know, Steve, you just landed, and as tired as you are, you still came on. So thank you all. And for everybody listening, the season premiere, well, you said that there was one show on July 5th, which is next Saturday, and then July 12th starts the season premiere of The Dead Files. Thank you both for coming on the show. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having us again. I appreciate you guys. You're really loyal to our show.
Thank
we really
you.
Appreciate that.
And
we love you guys.
Amy, you got to come back on when your book is published.
Yeah, that'll be good. Thanks. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, have a great weekend and happy 4th of July to you.
You too.
Guys.
Thank
Take
you,
care,
guys.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Oh, my computer is slow. What happened? All right, so that was Amy and Steve.
You know what? I was a lot calmer this time than I was last time, but still, I'm just as excited. I mean, these guys, for anyone who knows anything about me, I adore these two people. I adore Amy. I think she is so cool, and I think she's got such a talent, and she is the real deal. To me, from what I've seen, from my interaction with her, she's the real deal. And just like Steve said, yes, this is an intelligent show. It is not the, running through and getting scared, and it's different. And to me, it's a breath of fresh air. It really is, to sit down and watch an episode of The Dead Files.
Well, they're in it to help the families. They're in it to help their clients, and that's the main purpose of what they do and the main purpose of the show. It isn't the scare factor. It isn't all the bells and whistles that a lot of the other shows do. And not to bash the other shows. I'm not here to bash anything. To each their own. There are techniques that people do and others that don't do that. I think it works for Amy and Steve, and I think it gives a different twist to the idea of when going into a residential location or some location where it's affecting people, families, strangers, whoever has come in contact with these locations. They're there to find the answers, both metaphysical and physical. They take those two roads and come together and create the story and find out what is the issue, what is plaguing these families and these locations, and give resolutions for it. Give these families something that they can do to make a change if they want the change. If they don't want the change, then they're going to live with whatever is there. But I think that's what truly is different between the Dead Files and all of the other ones that you see, is that they care. Amy and Steve care about these people. They care about the families. They care about their clients. They keep in contact. As you've just heard, they are in contact. And Amy says that some of them or most of them are she considers their friends. So it's not something that is scripted and acted, and then, like I was saying, the credits roll and then they all walk away and they forget about it and go on to something else. Mostly for Amy, these investigations affect her physically and mentally. She gets so involved and wrapped up in trying to find out and communicating and getting what needs to be brought onto the table to be shown to the families and to everybody on television, and she physically exhausts herself to get that done. You can't just go through something like that and then just turn around and walk away and not think anything about it anymore. I mean, you'd have to be heartless to do that. And these two, Amy and Steve, they've got hearts of gold.
Well, you know what, to their credit, even further, with staying in contact with the people, the clients that they have, they are two of the most friendliest and accessible, quote-unquote, celebrities there are. They really do love their fans. I mean, they interact. They will, you can send Steve a message on Facebook. He'll answer you. You can send Amy a message, and she will answer you. They are real people. It's none of this. They don't believe their own hype. I mean, they're for real, and that is one of the reasons why I'm so enamored with them. I mean, I just can't say enough about them. And I understand they have their critics. I mean, of course, there's critics for everything. But as far as I'm concerned, they're the real deal to me. I enjoy the show, and I'm going to keep watching. And I'm so excited there's going to be another season.
I was surprised to learn, which I had not known before, that Amy was involved and created an organization to, I guess, not only test psychics and mediums out there, but to, I guess it was in the intention of, I guess, regulating or creating some regulation in that fact, as much as she has claimed that she has been tested by hundreds of people, and whether they're written tests or verbal, oral tests that she had to go through, she was put through the rigor of it all, and she then turned and did that for others, so that sort of you can weed out the fakes or the money hungry fame ones. Excuse me. And I really do hope that she, if it's not while she is on the Dead Files, or if it's after, the Dead Files comes to an end if it does, I hope she does create this regulation organization for psychics and mediums. I don't know how you'd go about doing that. How do you certify somebody? How do you create a quote-unquote Angie's List for psychics and mediums of the world and have a basis for it? Because, again, you're still talking about the unknown. There's something that scientifically cannot be proven by scientific standards, but it still can be proven by other standards. And how do you certify that? But I really do hope that she continues. I think she would be a great leader. I think if there's anybody out there who could start this and really get this up and going and get a really good startup on it, would be Amy.
Well, I certainly hope that someday farther down the line, Amy does, continue or work with that. I think it's something that needs to be done. It's something that's needed. Again, it's wonderful. But I wanted to ask you something. So you got to talk to Amy and Steve. What did you think?
I didn't have, and I don't usually have expectations when talking to a guest. I try not to. It sort of, impedes my thought process during the interview and the formulation of questions and so on. So I don't like to hype it up. It probably won't hit me until after that, I was actually able to really talk to Amy and Steve, who I've admired for such a long time. And we did a silly YouTube video. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice tonight. We did a silly YouTube video of me, really being amazed at Amy on the Dead Files and driving and flying out to, quote unquote, ring her doorbell and there you are, Lucy, in a wig and lipstick. But that's how I felt, because every time I watch the show, I'm completely amazed at the process of what she goes through and what she reveals during the walkthrough, and then what happens when she sits down with the sketch artist, which I think is amazing. I'd love to be. I've had an art history. I've been an artist. I think I'm an artist. I would love to sit down and have her describe to me a spirit and just me drawing it. That's my own little fantasy, but. It really, I guess, humbled me to be able to talk to them and to get some insight. Obviously they're real people. They're blood and skin like everybody else, but they've got amazing talents and amazing gifts, amazing history and experiences that they've had. That I've just wanted to be able to say that I was able to talk to them and get a little bit of an insight into their life. And that was one of the reasons why I'd watched that video on YouTube that the Travel Channel did, A Day in the Life of Amy. And they did one for Steve, too. You saw him sort of kicking back with a drink and a cigar with his friend. But Amy's I found fascinating because it opened up, I think, of her sitting around with her friends eating sandwiches in front of her in the mausoleum of her grandparents. And her saying that this is really not done anymore. It used to be done. This was a tradition that used to be done back in the day and is not being done any longer. And, just of her narrating and seeing the visuals of her and her friends sitting around there just talking and chatting and being in the company of her grandparents who she admired so much and who I believe she received her gifts from. I just found that to be really sweet and, thought-provoking, because people don't do that anymore. They sort of, like I was saying to Amy, people distance themselves from death. And when a loved one passes, how many times do you go to their grave a year? Maybe on the holidays. Maybe it's Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, and Easter. Maybe that's the only times that you go there. And it's a shame because if you believe in the afterlife, they still are people. They still are, quote-unquote, living. And you can still have a relationship. It does not have to end just because death has taken it away.
Well, I like that she mentioned that it is cultural, because I'm half Mexican, and it still is part of the culture to go to the cemetery and to spend time, to have a picnic there, to spend time there. Mm-hmm. But one thing I do want to mention is every episode, if someone feels that they do need some help, that they have something going on in their home, in their lives. Every episode, they do mention that if you need help, you can contact them through the Travel Channel. So I just want to put that out there for everybody that, if there's something that is happening to you, that you're experiencing something that you really need help with, Amy and Steve are there to help you. They really are.
When I was doing some of the research to formulate, background stuff with Amy and Steve and the show The Dead Files, I don't know if you came across, but I came across a website that was labeled helpmedeadfiles.com. And it had the picture of Amy and Steve on there and the Dead Files logo and everything, and it was sort of a landing page. It was one, there was no menu on there to go to different pages. It was one landing page, and it was a form to fill out. And it had, your name, address, everything else, contact info, and then the levels of activity and what you were experiencing. I don't know if that's affiliated with the show at all, because I'd never heard it. Maybe it is, but I never heard it during the show or at the end of the credits that you go to this website, helpmedeadfiles.com. So I don't know if somebody's trying to pull a leg on people, or I should have asked them that.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything on that, and I don't know for sure that it's affiliated with the Travel Channel. I would tend to say that, if you really do need help and you need to contact them, go through the Travel Channel Dead Files page. There is a link there where you can click on, and it will bring you to, it starts the process.
Right. Well, I don't know if this is premature, and, the Dead Files actually did an episode at this one location, but did you want to sort of announce to everybody where we're going to be in a few weeks and broadcasting live from?
Yeah. Well, the Dead Files, I believe it was not this season, the previous season, they actually went to St. Albans Asylum in Radford, Virginia.
Sanitarium.
So, on July 18th, Anthony and I will be traveling to Radford, Virginia, and we are going to investigate live St. Albans Sanitarium. I cannot wait.
Yeah, this is one place that we've heard a lot about. There's been many videos done on this place. And again, it seems as though Lucy and I are being attracted to asylums and prisons and, where there's just been sort of bad treatment, amongst patients and victims and abusers and all of that stuff. I don't know if it's a fascination that we have and we're sort of going with it and riding it as long as we can, but I feel an attraction to a location like that because, I'm not going to say I'm like Amy and Steve, but I kind of feel as though that maybe our presence will help at least one of the spirits there. If we do go and communicate, maybe we'll do some help and some good. We've said this many times, we don't like to go to residential locations. We don't go to residential locations. We've never done it. I cannot do that. I cannot be there, and I know Lucy cannot do that, and stir up whatever activities there, and not sure of whether or not you can help families. I'm not at that level, and I don't think I'll ever be at that level to do that work or to be in that field. But my concern is more about the spirits and helping them and trying to figure out or trying to figure out what it is that is keeping them here, and if there's anything that can be done, then hopefully maybe Lucy and I can sort of help them in some manner. I'm not a cleanser. I'm not a person that can help cross people over. We're none of that. And Lucy won't stamp her name on that as well. It's just our own. Maybe it's selfishness. I don't know. Maybe we feel as though that we could, and in doing so, get some sort of satisfaction in that manner. And along the way, if we get an answer or two that helps us along, or things that we've experienced that sort of guides us in our journey into finding what is it about the afterlife, and does it exist, and where do we go after this? If it answers any of those questions for us, I think then that's a great thing. But the first and foremost thing that's on our mind is going there and comforting the spirits and trying to, I guess, make them heard. That's all.
Well, you know what? I've thought about it, and in a way, I think the locations that we've gone to, for some reason, it always ends up that they may not be the first locations that we talk about, but for some reason, we end up going there. I think there's some kind of pull, or there's something that we need to experience when we're there. And I do want to say that the experiences that we've had in some of these locations sometimes are a little bit different than what other people have. I really have always wanted to go to St. Albans. I've been talking with Marcelle, the woman who oversees the place, and she's told me a little bit about, like the locations in there, and I was asking her about like the activity that's in there, the bowling alley, but she did mention one thing. She said something about the boiler room, and she says that women, when they go down into the boiler room, have very negative experiences. Well, of course, the first thing that pops into my mind, I want to go to the boiler room. But it's not so much for the scare factor. It's not so much, to experience something. I want to know. I want to learn. And I think what we're doing, and I've always said this, like even with my tarot card reading, everything, I'm just a messenger. That's all I am. And Anthony, you definitely fall into that category. I think that's what we are. I think we're messengers for spirits that are on the other side. It's not so much to get this big scare or to get a shock value. I think it's really to hear and to listen to what these spirits are trying to get across. Because I really think that the activity would not be happening if there isn't something that needs to be heard or experienced.
I don't like it when you use titles. I don't like it when people use titles. No, seriously, I really don't. I don't like to be put into a category of, you're a channel, you're whatever. I may use that as a description, but when it's used as a title, I don't like it. One, it sort of creates a silo in the effect that you're put into this category, into this box, and my big beef with it is then people get a wrong impression of you when you start to title yourself in especially within the paranormal. I don't like to be put in a box like that, because it's not a complete description. Number one, it's not a complete description, but two, I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't know what it is that we're there for. Maybe right now we could be a channel, but tomorrow we could be something else. We don't rule, and we don't run, and we don't regulate how the afterlife and how the paranormal works. It actually is in reverse. They're the ones, and the paranormal is what sort of predicts and governs how the world is, in my opinion, from the little knowledge that I know, because they have more knowledge than we do. They have the answers. They know what is going on, and if they're still able to communicate with us, then obviously there is something that we still have to learn, and the only way to do that is when we cross over. So I don't like to get into the titles of things and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. I want to be left open to one, to be able to receive things in any different manner. Whether it's something that I can physically find, if it's the research that I do, if it's the interaction and communication with the spirits, whatever it is, I want to keep myself open to all of that, so that I don't create, again, that silo and be defined that, because then subconsciously, I then start to create and manifest that for myself. And I don't want to get into that. I don't want to do that for me. But, yeah, that was my big beef when people title me on things.
Well, I apologize.
No. It's nothing to apologize for.
But, I mean, and each investigation has been a learning experience. I mean, you're right. I mean, every time we go somewhere, we learn something else. And it just keeps going on and on. I mean, I learn so much every time I go. And it just brings more questions that I want answered, or I want to try to find the answers. And I know I'll probably never find all of these answers till I get to the other side. But in the meantime, I want to do as much as I can to try to find these answers.
I wonder now that I've asked Steve that question about looking back on his previous homicide cases, if he had ever thought about the paranormal being involved in it in any way, small or big. He says, and he answered it, and he says, no, he never did, but then again, he's never been asked that question, or maybe he never even thought of it. But I'm wondering now, after I've said it, I wonder if he's sort of going to subconsciously think back. And, you know, I wasn't talking about, you know, the devil made me do it, or, you know, I see Lucifer, and Lucifer said to me that I have to go and kill that little boy, or whatever it is. I wasn't talking about that. I was just thinking maybe in some way, if it was, you know, a victim of some homicide case, that somehow, mysteriously, a piece of evidence showed up somewhere, and nobody knew how it got there. And, you know, maybe thinking about it now, that there's no real reality to how that happened, but could it have been some sort of paranormal where the victim was able to provide an evidence somehow to Steve and the other detectives on the case? That's the sort of mode that I was thinking of when I was asking that question. But I'm sure maybe once he starts to think about it more, he may come to think that maybe there may have been a case or two that happened that way.
Well, you know what's really interesting about Steve is when he's talking about his research, it sounds just like a normal, well, I can't say normal. It sounds like a regular investigation of a crime. He talks about these spirits or these people in that term. They're people. Like he said, they're people. So, that's part of what draws me to the show, is because listening to the investigation, he's not formulating some theory. He's working basically on the facts that he's uncovered.
Well, we had a great chat room tonight. A lot of folks in there were talking about the cases. They were listening to the show and asking questions. And I apologize for not getting to everybody's question that they were asking in chat. We were trying to keep a good flow with the communication with both Amy and Steve. But I really did want to thank Ken and Lou and Miss Amy Marie and Pink Ghost and Sharon and Trina for and all the guests that are listening tonight for being a part of it. We did give the opportunity for someone to call in and be a guest along with Amy and Steve. We did have somebody, but they were unable to, or backed out at the last minute. So we're sorry that she could not be here tonight with us. But thank you all for listening tonight and actually adding to the conversation, and your questions were great. Lou's question about smell, I've always thought about that, and that's why I had sort of asked the question to Amy, do all the senses come to be affected when she's talking to the spirits? Do you feel things? Do you hear things? Do you see things? Do you smell things? Do you taste things even? And I was surprised to learn that smell was not one of them. Mm-hmm. Were you surprised?
Not really, because I know that not everybody gets that. I mean, not everybody experiences that. But what I found was interesting, and what I always wanted to know, is that when these spirits are when she's absorbing all that information into her head, you know, I found it really interesting that she says that she disassociates herself before the walkthrough. So, because to me, I can't imagine having all my own thoughts in my head and then now all of a sudden receiving all of this, because it seems so intense when you're watching her. I mean, she's feeling what these people felt. Like she said, she feels their death. She feels their pain. That seems kind of overwhelming, and that just proves to me that she really is good at what she does. I mean, in order to still keep yourself and then experience all of what this other person is feeling or has gone through, that's a lot. That's an awful lot.
You know, I had also thought, too, that she at least knew what state or town she was going to. I didn't know it was one of those things where, you know, she just drives or somebody drives her to the airport and it's like they hand you your airline ticket right then and there and you board the plane. I at least thought the producers or somebody from the show would at least let her know, you know, the day of or the day before, so she knew what to pack, what clothes to pack, but apparently not. She's got to pack for winter and for summer and for in between, and you know, as she was saying, you know, the airlines just love her when she brings two huge heavy bags with her every time. I thought that was amazing, but you know what, it makes sense, and I think it actually helps her in a way with these cases, and it helps the cases as well, so that, again, there's no preconceived thoughts that appear, or that there's nothing that can come through while thinking about the town that may interrupt her concentration, or for her to be able to clean her slate, as she was saying, so that she gets rid of all her own personal thoughts, so that she can be more open when she goes to the location. But I just thought that was amazing. Could you imagine just, you know, walking into the airport and being handed an airline ticket, and then you know where you're going?
I think it's amazing, and I'm glad she's mentioned that, because to me it just validates what she does. I mean, when she is going into these locations, she really is picking up on what's there, not what she knew about it, not what she's been given. She's picking up on exactly what's there. Whoever's approaching her, I know she mentioned sometimes that the spirits, they know she's coming before she even gets there. I think it's amazing. I truly, she is just simply amazing to me. I can't say enough about it.
Is there any doubt that you have about Amy's abilities?
No.
None whatsoever. Even the fact that, you know, when Steve was even saying, you know, every week, it's just amazing how you guys just get all of the facts and all of the answers and all of the things correct, and even down to, you know, in my opinion, the sketches that come out that are just amazingly identical to the photographs that come out. There's no doubt in your mind at all that everything that happens on the Dead Files is accurate and true.
No, not at all. Only because, like Steve said, he says it's impossible to get everything correct. And the thing is that when you watch Amy, she's picking up things. She may not know exactly what it is, but she has picked up something. When Steve gives her the facts, then you can almost watch her face, and you can see everything starting to click and come together. While she's going through her walkthrough, she may not know exactly what's going on. She may not know who this person is or what their connection to the case is. But it's at that reveal that she'll give what she's gotten. And if something is not, it's probably not clear. And I understand. I think I understand this part where she may be picking up things, you know, that aren't exactly forefront in this case. she mentioned it. She says they get spirits from down the street all of a sudden coming in. You know, they may not have anything to do with the case. But it's when Steve, with his research, he kind of like gives the facts, and then all of a sudden, like I said, you can watch Amy's face, and you can see it all start to fall into place. You can see it clicking. So I don't doubt her abilities. I will say that I can see where sometimes she doesn't get exactly what this is, but it's because she has no knowledge of what the case is or what the event was.
Okay.
You're looking at me like, no. Do you doubt her abilities?
No, I don't doubt her abilities. I'm sure that while on these cases, that there is information that comes through. Could it be from, you know, the spirits down the street that are coming in that, like you were saying, that has nothing to do with the case? I'm sure that happens. I'm sure she gets information that comes through that has nothing to do with either the home or what's affecting the family at that time. And I'm sure then that is edited out. That's something that, you know, the producers of the show or the editors of the show will do, because it doesn't make sense. I think what would be cool is if they left maybe one or two of those pieces in, just to show that it happens, and that, because I think people get the mentality, if it's too good to be true, then it is. And right off the bat, you know, even Steve was saying, oh, you're an actor, so are you acting on television? You know, there is doubt in people's minds. I understand why the Dead Files show does what they do in the editing process, because you want to create a story, you have to have a beginning, middle, and an end. If you throw in things that have nothing to do with it or don't make sense, all you're going to do is confuse the viewers. I get it. I understand that completely. I know the entertainment business. I know it all. But I think if they went through the process and they showed the process of what Amy goes through, or even with Steve, if Steve is given misinformation and whatever, I'd love to see him sort of, you know, curse out the historian and say, what the fuck are you doing? Or are you giving me bull crap, you know, and then move on to the second person that's on his list, you know, as a backup or whatever it is. I think that would just make it a little bit more real. It certainly doesn't. The show now certainly doesn't persuade me into thinking that there's funny business going on, that it is too good to be true. I don't think that. But I think for the average viewer, I think it may be good, because what people are basing their opinions on is what they see. And if people aren't listening to, you know, a show like ours, or if they're on interviews and somewhere else, and they talk about, yeah, there's crap that happens that, you know, comes through that we don't, it's not aired, it's on the editing floor. It doesn't come through, and you don't see it when you're watching the show or the episode. And so, therefore, I think people would then realize, well, okay, yeah, you know, it's all not too good to be true. There are things that happen that have nothing to do with whatever the storyline is or what is affecting these families. But I think it just gives, I guess it gives more concrete stability for people to understand. It's not always right. There are things that are going to come through. Nobody's 100%. Everybody's fallible, you know, including psychics and mediums. And therefore, here's the true piece of it. But again, I understand why the Dead Files does that, because it just, to them, it doesn't make sense when you're trying to tell a story. You can only give the information of that story. If you were reading a book, let's just say this, if you were reading a book and it was about a dog named Sam that was saving a boy who was drowning in the water, and all of a sudden it said, and the score for the baseball game was 5-2, and they lost in the 10th inning or whatever. That wouldn't make sense to you. Why the hell would they put that line in that book? I get it. I understand that there's no flow. There's no reason for it. But I think in shows like the paranormal, I think you need it just to give a little bit more of the quote-unquote realness and the trueness of what paranormal investigations are all about. That's my opinion. This is just my opinion.
Well, no, I mean, I understand what you're saying because, I don't. One thing I have to say, yes, no medium is 100% right all of the time, but I do feel that Amy does have an ability. I would love to see the raw footage of the whole reveal. And I'm sure because of time, and like you said, it has to be a story. So maybe somewhere down the line or somewhere, just to take one case, or even on the revisit, maybe take one of those reveals and show the whole raw footage of the reveal.
Or even maybe, how they do the Q&A sometimes, or the revisit. Mm-hmm. Maybe they should do a behind-the-scenes episode. Showing, sort of like some of the, not the outtakes or bloopers or anything of it, but the behind the scenes of when Amy is standing at a location and she's taking a little bit of a breather right then and there, because obviously she's not walking through it and not taking breaks. I think it would be cool to see her on a break and, what she is going through, what that process is all about. Or, maybe some behind the scenes of, how Steve is getting his information. Even just him calling and not getting an answer and getting an answer machine, and I'm sure, he'd hang up the phone and curse out the MFer. I don't know. I think that would be, that's just my own, again, that's my selfishness. But I think it would lend a little bit more credence to the folks that have that doubt in their mind about what really goes on.
Well, there's an idea for the Travel Channel. Maybe take a case and make it a 2-part episode. One episode be the walkthrough and the investigation, and then the other part would be just a whole episode with just a whole reveal. Everything uncut, there, raw. I would love to see that. I really would.
Well, I do want to say thank you to Stephanie at the Travel Channel for once again coming through and being an absolute angel for setting this show up tonight. The Travel Channel has been so gracious. I think they have been the most gracious media company that we have dealt with in getting our guests, especially Stephanie, who we've worked with for several others as well. And she's just, just amazing. Her, her constant communication with us, and the information that she gives, and all of the she even sends us photos of the show and what we can use, and which is great because these are new photos that are not out on the web yet. That and some of them we actually posted on our Facebook page. I think it was the one that I did about. We have a little gift on Friday night. Those are new photos for the new season, and they gave us she gave us a press reading that had some information, and had the information for this premiere show for July 12th. So I don't know if Stephanie is listening, but thank you, Stephanie, at Travel Channel, for really coming through, and you are an angel that I hope never leaves that company.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot to Stephanie and the Travel Channel. I mean, they've been really, really good to us, and I can't say enough.
All right. Did you want to move on to the rest of the show, or did you have anything else about tonight's interview?
No, I'm speechless. I mean, once again, it was a wonderful experience. I'm so glad that you finally got to talk to them. And thank heavens I was a lot calmer this time than I was the first time. So let's go on to the Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week. And this week it is Stancilo Takahashi of Chicago, Illinois. Stancilo likes the Ramones, Baby Metal, the Aquabats, Manga, South Park, Robot Chicken, Naruto, and of course he likes Paranormal Review Radio. Thank you so much for being a fan, and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, Stancilo. And don't forget, if you want to be a Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week, just like us on Facebook at Paranormal Review Radio. Lucy, there's actually one thing I wanted to bring up, and this has nothing to do with tonight's show, but you'll know once I start talking about this. But, we did a show last week on the Church of Satan, and it was an amazing show. I know people have their comments about it. Our main purpose of the show was to bring to light what the Church of Satan was all about, and to share with everyone from somebody within the Church of Satan who has a high authority status there, and talk about what the Satanic Bible is and all of that. It's an educational show. That's all it is meant to be. I mean, we're not converting people. We are not Satanists. Believe me. But that's the basis for all of our shows. It's education. But one of the funny things that we received in our email box, did you read that, Lucy?
Yes, I did.
I don't know. I don't know if it was because this person may have listened to the show, but it's very funny that we've never received an email like this before until a couple of days after the show had aired, or we were live, that we received an email from a pastor in Nigeria, and he was talking about, I guess, elderly people in their country who cannot read the standard issued Bibles that they have, and that he wanted to know if we had large print Bibles that we can send to them, and also inviting us if we'd like to come down there and teach the quote-unquote blessings of God and Jesus to the people. And, throughout this whole email, it was, the beloved Christ, and you are the children of Christ. And I just got the impression that, it was sort of a snide way of saying, okay, you did the show on Church of Satan, now come back down to reality of God and Jesus and help us with this plight, and help us, get Christianity and Catholicism going, That's what I got from it, but it was very funny that we received it right after the show Church of Satan.
Well, I don't know if I've mentioned it to you, but I got a couple messages asking me about my beliefs. So, the show was just done as education. I mean, it wasn't, we're not Satanists, and what we present is a learning experience, and that's what it needs to be taken as. It's not recruitment. It's not trying to force any beliefs on anybody. It's just education. So hopefully that clears that up. But anyway, you know what? I just wanted to, Paranormal TV, it changes every time you change the channel. There are only a few shows that have remained constant because of what they give their viewers. The Dead Files is at the top of that list. Amy and Steve are the perfect combination. While they search for answers to help the people who need it, we are treated to watching their amazing investigations, and to this day, they remain two of the nicest and friendliest people around. We want to thank them both for joining us, and thanks again to the Travel Channel for their help in setting up this interview. We are so looking forward to this new season. So, that was so exciting, but what could be more exciting than talking to your favorite celebs? Talking to your friends, of course. Next Friday night is the 4th of July, and what better way to end the day than with some fun with some parapeeps? We want to keep the fireworks going on into the night, figuratively speaking, that is. We would like to invite you to our first paranormal trivia night. Myths, urban legends, truth, and paranormal history. Let's have some fun. How much do you know about the paranormal? We're sending out the challenge. Impress everyone with your knowledge and maybe even learn something new. Now, we're going to be on 2 hours later that night, midnight Eastern Time, 11 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Pacific. So get the Skittles, the leftovers, and the Jell-O shots ready and celebrate the holiday with us. Thank you, everyone, for listening tonight. You all rock. Thank you, Anthony, for another great show. So, until next week, dear friends, have a safe and happy 4th of July and a paranormal week. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Paranormal Review Radio.